This vignette comes to us from the webinar called Learning Open Educational Resources. In it, Dr. Cable Green starts to talk to us about how to find and use Creative Commons content.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've jumped into how do you find OER, but it might be worth just for a moment to define what we mean by open educational resources. And so this is a definition. I'm just going to read it very quickly. That is used by the Hewlett Foundation. A version of it used by UNESCO. And generally speaking, these ideas in this definition are commonly accepted across the open community. So here's the definition. Open educational resources are teaching, learning, and research materials in any medium that reside in the public domain or have been released under an open license that permits their free use and repurposing by others. So there's two parts of that are really important. One is that you've got free use. So you can use it at no cost, or it's gratis. So that's important when we're in education, and especially we're talking about student resources. Those of you who are in higher education, you know that many of your students who come to your classes don't buy textbooks because either they can't afford them or they don't think that there's enough value in paying $150 for a textbook. And so they don't buy it, and as a result, they come unprepared to class. So that free, no-cost part of an OER is critical. The other part, the legal rights to repurpose it. So what does that mean? That means you have to have the legal rights to change it to meet your needs. So David elegantly came up with a phrase that he refers to as the 4 R's. You have to be able to reuse, revise, remix, and redistribute that work. So again, let's take a textbook as an example. If David was kind enough to build a textbook on algebra, and he put a Creative Commons license on it, what that does is, first of all, that gives me free access to it, so I can use the work at no cost. But most important, I've got the legal rights to reuse it, meaning I can just use it as is in my classroom. I can revise it, so if I don't like David's Chapter 2, I can throw that out, put in my own Chapter 2, and make any other adjustments to the book that I see fit. The third thing is I have to be able to remix it. So I take David's book and maybe Joshua's book over there and remix those together and create something new, a new textbook from the two. And then redistribute. I have to be able to share that new thing that I created, share it forward, put it on my website, put it on my blog, share it in my department with other professors. Or if I'm in K-12, right, share it across my school district. And so for something to be an OER, it's got to have both of those characteristics. And so more often than not, and this is why, this slide that we're on now is a bit redundant with the first one, how do we find Creative Commons licensed content? Usually, if you're looking at educational content and it's OER, it's got a Creative Commons license on it. Now, one important point here is not all Creative Commons licenses are good for OER. So Creative Commons, many of you are probably familiar with it. We have 6 different open copyright licenses. You've probably heard things like CC BY or CC BY SA, and there's 4 conditions that are possible on the license. Very quickly, it's attribution. So that if I use David's book, I give David credit. I say, I got this from David. Thanks very much. I'm going to link back and give him proper attribution. The second one's called share alike. So if I take David's book and I modify it, legally I have to relicense that new work, that derivative work that I produced, under the same terms that David licensed his work under. And so that's called share alike. Non-commercial says I can't make commercial use of David's book. So it would be against the law to take David's book that he's openly licensed, put it on my website, and charge $20 for you all to download and buy it. Right? I can't do that. I can't make commercial use. And the last one is called no derivatives. I can use David's book, but David said you may not make any changes to it. So it's that last condition, that no derivatives condition, that really doesn't work at all for open educational resources. And the reason is it violates those 4 R's. Right? If I can't make changes, then I can't revise and I can't remix. And that's a real problem. So to the question here, where do you find Creative Commons content? David covered one of the best places to find Creative Commons content, and that is on Google. And so thanks, David, for doing that. I'm also going to drop in a link in the chat window And maybe that can be picked up by one of our organizers and thrown out on Twitter or otherwise given to the audience. And this is a page that we created to support the Department of Labor grantees who are taking significant amounts of grant money from the government, and everything they build has a Creative Commons attribution license on it. And as we started working with all these community colleges across the United States, they said, gosh, where do we look? Not just, yeah, we know how to use Google. Thanks for showing us that. But we'd like some more specific searches. Where do we go when we're looking for videos? Where do we go when we're looking for images? Where do we go when we're looking for entire courses? Where do we go? You get the idea, right? And so if you look at this link, it's just a very simple page we put together called Find OER. And it kind of breaks it out by, general searches, photo searches, video, etc. So feel free to use that site if you find it useful. We're actually tuning it, revising it right now, and trying to make it better. And then we'll actually bring this over, all this content and information, to the main Creative Commons education site as well, to make it easy for folks to find OER that they're looking for. And let me just, we'll pause there for a minute. Oh, no, I'm not ready to pause yet. I have one more thing to say. And that is, David knows I always have one more thing to say. So one of the things that Creative Commons works very hard on is what we call platform adoptions. So what David showed you was, years of Creative Commons and others like David telling Google, hey, we really need to be able to filter and search by open license. And Google said, okay, we hear you. We'll add it to the advanced search. Recently, Google just added it to YouTube. So today, if you go to YouTube and you upload a video, you have two choices. You can mark it as a standard YouTube license, or you can use the Creative Commons attribution license. Well, why does that matter? Well, it matters because it gives you the choice. And the other reason it matters is if you put a CC BY license on your video, it actually throws it into a different category in YouTube, and the category is everybody else can remix your video. And YouTube actually has a remix tool, so that's pretty cool. If another platform adoption is with Flickr, so a lot of you probably used Flickr to find images, but did you know that if you go to Flickr/Creative Commons, there's actually a nice landing page, and there's approximately 175 million Creative Commons licensed photos in Flickr. And so I don't know about you, but sometimes when I make slide decks, I want an image, and I'd rather be legal and give somebody proper attribution. So where I go is I go to Flickr to look for that. And there's platform adoptions with Apple iTunes U and with Vimeo and with all sorts of different tools around the world. And the reason that we do that is Creative Commons is trying to make it easy for you in the tools that you already use, to make it easy to add a Creative Commons license to your work and to find openly licensed works that others are kind enough to share with you.
There's that long pause. I want to see if Cable has one more thing to say. I'm enjoying this.
No, I'm done this time. I'm really done.
David, did you want to add anything to what Cable was saying there before we get to the next section? We're doing wonderful for time.
Well, no, just, maybe to say thanks to Cable and to Creative Commons who do work really hard on these platform adoptions. If you had to just run around the web randomly looking for buttons and logos and links at the bottom of web pages to try to find openly licensed material in OER, it would be horrifically difficult. But because Google has been persuaded, because YouTube has been persuaded, because Flickr has been persuaded, because people have decided that this is important and it is a good idea and it's a big deal, they have implemented these tag and search capabilities, and the credit for that goes to Creative Commons, and it makes all of our lives tons easier. I don't know how I would possibly be able to teach my classes if we did not have that search filter capability in Google.
If you don't mind me asking, Google is, of course, pretty protective of all their user interfaces and how minimal they are. How did you manage to convince these guys to do that?
Well, it's really a demand. It's a demand-driven decision. So, to the extent that David and Creative Commons and others are successful in arguing to any platform be able to easily search and discover Creative Commons licensed content, then that's a persuasive argument. And the more that businesses hear that from their customers. So I'll give you an example. Universities and colleges around the world are, as you know, getting very interested in open educational resources and thinking about that, and then that gets into their technology conversations. At least every one that I know of, every college university around the world has some kind of learning management system. And so one of the first platforms that they, as customers, put pressure on for a CC license platform adoption is their learning management system. And so we worked with Blackboard in their Blackboard course sites tools to have a one button make my course in OER. So the question was, how do we make it really easy for faculty just to push one button that says make my course in OER, and that's all they have to do. And what it did, was like the back end tech, is it immediately made a new page that was publicly facing, so it wasn't behind the login and password. It took all the good information, the title, the abstract of the course, the professor's picture, a little all the information. It put the CC BY license on the course with all the appropriate attribution information. And then it had 2 download versions of the course. It said, here's the course in a Blackboard format, which a lot of people have, but not everybody, and that's a proprietary format. But it also said, here's the course as a common course cartridge download. And so the idea there was it was more than just a CC platform adoption, but it was also, we were thinking about ease of use, right? How do we make this a one-button click? And even though David said some very nice things about, CC and getting platform adoptions, the reality is that we've got a lot more work to do. So getting a CC license today, not difficult. You go to creativecommons.org, you click on the big green button, and you get your license. But still, if you're going to do the license properly, you have to copy the code and drop it into your web page. And that's not hard, but that's too hard for a lot of people. And so, we just hired a new director of product development. This guy's job is going to be to make that easier. How do you just literally make it one click? And even though, we've got good platform adoptions in different places all over the web, that's not good enough. That's too many places to look. And how do we make it really, really easy for a K-12 teacher or for a college professor to very quickly say, I'm a professor, I teach chemistry, show me all the OER in chemistry for grade or for sophomore year at State University, and for that to be that simple. And we're getting there and we're working on it. But the goal is to make this so easy that more and more folks actually find and use existing OER, and then our other job is to make it easy for authors to contribute their OER so that others can use it.